My name is Julie McCarl, and this is my persuasive speech for Comms 101. And this is my audience. If you knew that your favorite dress had been made by a woman who's being forced to work for an unhealthy amount of hours in dangerous conditions with little to no pay, would you still have bought it? Do you know where your money is going? Are you accidentally supporting labor trafficking just by simply buying groceries or a new outfit? Many of your favorite stores to shop at, such as Walmart, Target, Old Navy, and H&M, are all involved in the use of labor trafficking. Personally, when I first learned that all of my favorite stores to shop at were involved in such horrible things, I was really frustrated. Through many hours of research and being involved in a campaign against human trafficking, I gained much knowledge on the topic. Slavery was not abolished with the Civil War. Labor trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery and is very real and alive in our culture today. Labor trafficking should be ended because of its emotional effect on its victims, its physical harm to the victims, and how it not only affects them, but it also affects us. The first thing I want to talk about is that labor trafficking harms its victims emotionally. People who are trafficked often come from emotionally devastated places. Traffickers target vulnerable populations characterized by oppression, high rates of illiteracy, little social mobility, and few economic opportunities. They prey on people like this. When children are trafficked and forced to live in an unhealthy environment away from their friends and families, this can have a negative effect on their emotional and physical development. Traffickers will use many different forms of manipulation to prevent the victims from escaping. This manipulation includes isolation to prevent them from getting help, blackmail so they are forced to stay, and lying to make them think that they are indebted to the traffickers. Deuteronomy 15:11 says, "For there will never cease to be poor in the land. Therefore I command you, you shall open wide your hand to your brother, to the needy, to the poor in your land." God wants us to help those in need, not to lie and manipulate them to better ourselves. The second thing I want to point out is that labor trafficking not only affects its victims emotionally, but it also hurts its victims physically. Trafficked individuals may be exposed to serious health risks to the point where they are sometimes worked or physically brutalized to death. Scars, headaches, hearing loss, and cardiovascular or respiratory problems and limb amputations are just some of the abuses that trafficked victims are exposed to. Victims of labor trafficking that have been forced to work in agriculture, construction, or manufacturing under dangerous conditions may also develop chronic back and visual or respiratory problems. They experience such torturous and unnecessary abuse because they need to find work in order to just support them or their families. Our role in stopping them reminds me of the story of the Good Samaritan. When the Samaritan did not turn his back on the man laying beaten in the street, but instead helped him, Jesus said, "Go and do likewise." God calls us to help those who are hurting and in need. The last point I want to make is labor trafficking does not just affect its victims, but also affects us as consumers. As consumers, we are the ones supporting the companies and groups that use labor trafficking. We are the ones buying the clothes that have the blood and sweat of so many underpaid and underprivileged workers. The clothes we wear, the coffee we drink, and the technology we use was possibly all made under the use of modern-day slave labor. When I found out that my favorite stores use sweatshops, I was so frustrated and upset. I was in shock that slavery even still existed and that my own money was going to support the companies that did this. Do you want your hard-earned money to go towards the oppression and the torture of so many people that are just trying to scrape by? In conclusion, God values all humans and calls us to love each other just as He loves us. Labor trafficking does so much to harm people and their families that are affected by it. By buying ethically made, we can do our part in helping these people regain their lives and value. Man was made in God's image, so let's try to respect that. This is all a lot to take in, and many may feel very confused and helpless to changing anything. But I have good news. A huge way that you can make a difference and do your part in ending labor trafficking is simply by making sure that the goods you are purchasing are fair trade and ethically made. By doing this, you stop supporting the companies using labor trafficking and send a message that consumers care and ethically made items are the new trend. Romans 13:8-10 says, Owe no one anything except to love each other. For the one who loves one another has fulfilled the law. For the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and any other commandments are summed up in one word. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no wrong to a neighbor, therefore love the fulfilling of the law. Let's put an end to labor trafficking and love our neighbors as ourselves. Thank you.